Hi, I'm Fiona, and this is All Poppies, where we offer practical wisdom to help you live a life in full bloom. Have you ever noticed in your romantic life that when you really like someone, or you have a burning desire for things to go a certain way, that frustratingly it seems to elude you? It could be that impatient, nervous anticipation when you're waiting for them to text back. It could be a yearning desire for him to propose. It could be just a general desire to be done with dating already and find your person. And then conversely, when you feel contented any which way, when you're not fussed any which way, that's when things seem to unfold easily and effortlessly. In this video, we will explore how you can use the power of non-attachment in dating and relationships. First, we'll look at the dynamics of desire and how they impact you and other people around you. And second, we'll look at some practical tactics for how you can release yourself from that emotional grip. So let's take a look at the dynamics of desire. Desire is obviously a powerful force. It inspires action, for better or for worse. It is necessary to have to sort of go off and achieve things. For example, if you suddenly are signing up for the gym and wanting to establish the habit of working out every day, that was likely preceded by the spark of a desire, whether it was to manage stress and maintain good mental health, was to stay hot and youthful, get fit for ski season or that hiking trip, or just get beach body ready for summer, or stay energetic for your kids. There was desire before that. The desire is obviously helpful, but like with anything in life, even virtues have their shadow side. And when it comes to desire, when that is excessive, that can really be quite brutal for us. Desire is, in its essence, actually a state of wanting, of not having, of perceived lack. And when we have too much desire for something, it can cause us pain and suffering. The Buddha figured this out long ago. He figured out that most of our suffering, whether it's sadness or anxiety, anger or worry, envy or jealousy, it all stems from the same thing. And that is being too tightly attached. Now, this could be attachment to our idea of how our life should be, how we want a situation to play out, how we want someone to behave, or to an existing situation or person. When it comes to dating and relationships, what I've observed is that oftentimes the suffering of attachment comes when we are overly attached to the idea of something that doesn't match our reality. For example, let's say you'd wanted to be at a certain point in a relationship by this point in your life, whether that's in a serious relationship or living together or perhaps engaged or enjoying the emotional undulations of parenthood. But for whatever reason, things are just taking longer than you'd like to come together. Or perhaps it could be to do with how your partner communicates with you, how they do or don't express their affection, or their general responsiveness overall. So often when we are disappointed by our romantic partners, it's because we're holding them up against this yardstick of an ideal, imagined person. We're attached to that projected ideal. And this could be true of a prospective lover in the earliest days of a romance, or it could be true of multi-year life partners. It's really about that expectations reality gap. And we know that happiness equals expectations minus reality. And when what we desire is so far removed from our present reality, that gap, that creates disappointment. When we cling to something too tightly, it causes ourselves unnecessary internal suffering. But not only that, It can also directly impact the external situation and the people around us. And this is often for the worse. Conversely, if you're able to loosen your grip on how you wish things would be, it can actually create an entirely different dynamic and shape the situation around you and the dynamics you have with other people for the better. So I'll give you an example from my personal life. I actually first experienced this dynamic of desire firsthand when I was interviewing for management consulting roles. Now, I think there's a lot of analogies and similarities between job hunting and partner hunting and work and relationships. So I am going to share this nonetheless. So there I was. I'd graduated from undergrad, top marks, very proud of myself, and I'd received invitations to interview at the top 3 management consulting firms. And let me tell you, I was dead keen on landing one of these. They had promised international travel, brilliant colleagues, stimulating work. It sounded pretty incredible. They also were infamous for having grueling interviews. They each would have 3 rounds, multiple live case studies. And so, because I desired one of these jobs so much, I prepared very intensely. I prepared for these interviews as if I was studying for exam finals. For multiple weeks, full time, I was doing case study after case study. I was writing up all the potential behavioral questions they could ask, writing up my responses, practicing in the mirror, preparing my key points. I went over and over and over. Finally, the interview week arrived. And I walked into the first firm. That was actually the one I liked the most. Culturally, it was the one that I thought would be the best fit for me. And I made it to the second round, but then I got nixed. And I was so bummed. I was completely deflated. I had thought I'd be a shoo-in. I really thought that was going to be the one for me. And I really, really wanted it because the narrative that I was playing in my head was, gosh, if I don't get into one of these firms, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I know I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't know what the other options are besides consulting. It really seemed at the time like this was the only possible attractive path that was available to me. So I dusted myself off after that first disappointment and steeled myself to go into the second firm. But in that instance, I got dinged after the first round. I had been so nervous going in because I'd now concentrated all of my desire on even fewer options that when I got hit with one challenging question, which I'd not prepared for, it completely threw me off course. I had a mind blank. And so I got dinged. And so first firm, I made it to the second round, got dinged. Second firm, I made it to the first round and got dinged. Like this trajectory was not going in the right direction. And so I figured, well, gosh, as I'm entering into this third firm, it just sort of feels like it's a foregone conclusion that failure is inevitable. And I seriously considered pulling out entirely and just saving us all the time. But then I thought, well, I may as well get the interview practice. It will help me for whatever job I try and interview for next. And so I went ahead, but my energy was completely different because at this point, while I had done all of this preparation for weeks in advance, I now was I had completely released any hold or desire on the outcome because I was resigned to it not happening. And so I went into that third firm and I was just really relaxed. My mind was clear. And actually, I was able to enjoy the case studies. They even seemed like fun. And so I was very at ease with my interviewers and I sailed through the first round. They called me back the next day for round 2. I sailed through that. And then in the third and final round with the super senior partner, who ordinarily would have been super intimidating, I was very relaxed. And then I got hit with a case study about a topic about which I knew absolutely nothing at the time. Credit cards. I'd never had one, never owned one, knew nothing about the industry. How was I meant to come up with like an insightful solution to solve this hypothetical client? And so I figured, well, that's it then. This is it. This is the end of the road. We are done. But since I'm here and we've still got 45 minutes to roll through this case, which I'm definitely not going to ace, I may as well learn something. So I asked questions. And as I walked out of that interview, I thought I had completely bombed because I certainly had not cracked the problem. I was asking questions like I thought a remedial student. Yet, much to my surprise and delight, later that evening, the firm called and made me an offer. Apparently, they'd been impressed by how cool-headed I was, the insightfulness of my questions, my intellectual curiosity, my structured thinking, how calm I was under pressure, my charm. And they figured what I didn't know, they could teach me, that I could learn. And I took the job, and I couldn't have asked for a better start to my career. But I'm pretty sure that had I gone into that interview with the same grip of desire that I'd had for the first and the second firm, that it would not have panned out. And so in this instance, I saw the dynamic of desire and how it impacts ourselves and the people and situations around us, both for worse and for better. And this dynamic is at play in dating all the time as well. When your desire for a person is overly intense, they can sense that. They might experience it as desperation. They might experience it as love bombing or as suffocation. They might feel turned off or overwhelmed and distance themselves. And this can happen in person when you're on the date or when you're interacting on the phone, via text. But it can also happen when there's seemingly no interaction. And this is through what is known as ESP, extrasensory perception. It happens even when we're not interacting with a person. That's sort of what explains this old adage that a watched phone never rings, or in this day and age, a watched phone never pings. When you're really desiring for that text or call to come through, just the phone is just seemingly dead. You're checking, oh, is it still working? Reboot. And that's because that energy can be sensed by them even when we're not talking to them, because we are all energetically connected in this universe. So a little bit about the dynamics of desire and how it impacts us and the people in the situation outside of us. So let's get practical then. Let's try and think about how to manage this desire and dynamic for our benefit. What can you do when you find yourself so deeply attached to a desired state that differs from a reality that's causing pain or unhelpful flow-on effects outside of you? Well, there's a few things. So on the one hand, you might think, okay, if it's all about sort of, desired state and actuality not matching, there being a gap there, maybe the best solution ideally is just to like shift our reality to match the desired state. But the thing is, when it comes to dating and relationships, when the situation involves someone else's feelings and behaviors, that's not necessarily easily done. Nor is it necessarily desirable. Because the very nature of desire in dating and in relationships is that we want the person we want to want us of their own volition. If we manipulate someone into loving us or treating us how we want, if we give them an ultimatum to say something or do something that we desire, that doesn't really feel like a true win. So if you can't change them, then, maybe all you can do on that front is change yourself. Make yourself more desirable as a partner in general. Make yourself the partner who is worth wanting and worth finding and worth chasing and worth keeping. But even that is no guarantee that the individual will reciprocate. So then to close the gap, maybe the answer is to eliminate desire entirely. Maybe you can convince yourself that you're fine. You don't want to be in a relationship anyway. They're so much work. They're overrated, really. Guys are messy and girls are confusing. And I'd say that's probably not the best approach either, because absence of desire will result in a pretty apathetic life, devoid of pleasure, devoid of motivation to get up and try anything, to grow in any which way. Rather, I would suggest that the ideal solution is actually just to loosen your grip on what you desire. And also, ideally, to loosen your grip on what you already have, both the desired state and the actual state. Because even the current state of any relationship, even the current state of your partner, that too is subject to change. The idea of someone growing in a different direction or a relationship dissolving entirely can lead to a lot of unease. And the stronger our attachment to something being or staying a certain way, the greater that unease. And so the idea that I will propose to you, the analogy that I'll leave with you, which I have used with myself and many others in my life and through my counsel have adopted and found really helpful, is this idea of holding it like a butterfly. So imagine you're holding a butterfly in the palm of your hand, and this butterfly is exquisite. You appreciate its delicate beauty. You relish the magic of its light touch. You would love for it to stay in the palm of your hand for as long as possible, forever, perhaps. But if you hold onto it too tightly, you could squash it altogether. Better then just to relax into a place of non-attachment, knowing that as long as this butterfly stays, then that's a great scenario. And knowing that if it decides to fly off, then that's a great scenario too. And that energy, that serenity, that is more likely to keep the butterfly around. It's all about holding it lightly. It's all about letting go of the grip. And when you can get to a place of equanimity, where you know that whatever the outcome, you'll be fine. If this happens, great. If it doesn't happen, also great. When you can do that, then ironically enough, that's actually when things are more likely to flow in. It's just like they say, when you're looking, it's when you're not looking for love, that love will just kind of come to you. And it's a cliche because there is a lot of universal truth in the energetic underpinnings. So when we talk about letting go, the obvious and most common protest is, but how do I do this? I mean, it's like when you tell someone, don't think about a pink elephant, suddenly all you can think about is a pink elephant. Or you decide, you know what, I'm going to go on a diet and I'm not going to have anything sugary or sweet for the next month. And then suddenly all you can think about is chocolate and ice cream, and you seem to see cakes everywhere. So what I will offer you is a number of actually practical, tactical actions that you can take to help yourself detach and release and let go of any desires when it comes to the dating and relationship realm. And these have been tried and tested from my own experience and have been offered and tried and tested by others too. So the first tactic I'll offer you is what I call prayers of affirmation. And this is the idea that you will send thanks to a higher power of your choosing for having let go as if it has already happened. So I'll give an example of how I use this in my own life to great effect. Going back to university, to college, my first college crush, his name was Michael. We met in our first year of university. We had an instant attraction to one another. We flirted excessively, consistently for months on end. Occasionally, you know, on a Wednesday night when there was a big party, we'd find each other on the dance floor and have a nice makeout. But it never went beyond that. He never actually asked me out. And it really frustrated me because he clearly liked me and I clearly liked him. And why couldn't he just ask me out? Why couldn't he be my boyfriend? Why couldn't I be his girlfriend? And it drove me nuts. I cannot tell you. Until eventually a mentor gave me this tactic and I put it into practice. So every time I would think about Michael and get frustrated by why he hadn't asked me out, which happened multiple times every day, I would instead send up a prayer and I'd say, dear God, thank you for helping me to release Michael. Thank you for having helped me to let go of him. I wish him well, and I'm so glad to be free of that desire. Amen. And you can sort of play with the language that resonates with you. It might be, dear universe, thank you for helping me to have let go of this desire and be completely at peace with any scenario. And so it is. Insert your choice of words that resonates with you. The important thing here is to give thanks for it having already been done, to talk about it in the present or the past tense as if it has already happened. And I did this every time I thought about him, which was multiple times every day, for many months. But over the course of that period, the intensity of that desire and that emotional hold did start to ease and dissipate until eventually it completely faded. And lo and behold, it was at that moment, on the cusp of disappearing for our summer vacation, that he eventually asked me out on a dinner date. At which point, I wasn't really sure if I actually wanted to go. I was no longer in the group of desire. But, I still thought he was cute. So I thought, well, I may as well give it a meal. And we ultimately ended up having a beautiful relationship for 5 years. The second tactic I will offer is a thought experiment. And this is to imagine the worst case scenario. Imagine that this thing that you desire actually never comes to be. It never plays out. What would you do in that situation? And if you really think about it, you'll realize that it's not probably not going to be the end of the world or the end of your life, and that you will find ways to survive and thrive. And the most brilliant example that I saw of this was an example from a friend of mine in San Francisco. We'll call her Gemma. And she had been dating in San Francisco and was very frustrated by her experience there. A complete catch, couldn't understand why she couldn't find her equal. And then she turned 35 and she figured, well, that's it. She's on the shelf. That's what society says, right? And so she completely gave up all hope. She figured, well, I guess this whole life partner, marriage, kid thing isn't going to happen for me. And well, if it's just me, I probably better figure out how to be happy just by myself. And so she did. She threw herself into her hobbies. She picked up her love of photography and took it to a whole new level. She decided to take her interest in running to a new level and signed up for a marathon and decided, let's raise money for a charity while we're at it. And she revived her interest in the arts and started going to the ballet and bringing friends along for the ride and just filled her life up. And lo and behold, then when she was at a friend's birthday party, she met one of the host's friends, and within months, they were living together, had rings on their fingers, and today they are happily married with a baby on the way. But when she met him, it was because and the reason they were able to connect and have such an easy, effortless, anxious-free relationship unfold was because she was completely relaxed. She didn't have any attachment to the idea of being with anyone at that point. The third tactic I will offer you is to get a life. Get your own life, fill up your own cup, nurture and water the full garden of your life. So take your mind off this desire, take the pressure off of it as if it's the one and only thing that can make you happy, and tend to the other things in your life. Invest in your relationships. Like, what can you do with your family to invest in those connections as well? How can you throw yourself more into work and get more out of your work? What are your interests that are uniquely yours that you can cultivate and go deeper on? Like, what sparks joy? What hobbies can you cultivate? Fill your life up so that you are sparking joy everywhere. And this is less about distracting yourself from, that guy or that relationship or, that milestone in the relationship that you're hoping for. And it's more about actually genuinely filling yourself up such that there is no feeling of lack. There is no feeling of wanting. You are full to overflowing and you're just in a state of having so much to give. And again, ironically enough, when you can get into that state, that becomes incredibly attractive. And so the chances are that then the person that you desire or that milestone that you desire is more likely to come through actually as that person starts responding to this new energy that you're giving out, this radiance, this vitality. And the fourth tactic that I will give you is to trust in the tapestry of life and to remind yourself of that with mantras. So by the tapestry of life, what I mean is this. Life is like a tapestry in that when we are living it, it's as if all we see is the backside of the tapestry, as the sort of the knots, which are the threads which are knotted, and it's kind of a mess, and the threads coming out here and the threads coming out there, and it's just a jumble and it doesn't really make sense. But with hindsight, perspective, and a 2020 vision, when we can look back on our life, that's when we see the front side of the tapestry. And we can appreciate how all of those seemingly disconnected threads have woven together to form this beautiful, colorful, textured visual, this life which is full of like darks and lights and like beautiful patterns. And so when you're in the moment of the weaving of life, and you can't really appreciate how things are coming together or know where that thread is going to weave into, there's three mantras which I find can be really helpful. One is that it's actually sort of an old Irish adage, that which is for you cannot pass you by. So if you're waiting for something, know that if it's meant for you, it will come for you. And if it passes you by, it wasn't meant for you. And in a similar notion, there's another more snappy one, which I like, which is rejection is protection. So if something doesn't play out, if you don't get the job, you don't get the house, you don't get the date, or, they don't want to go on a second date, that's fine. Sometimes in hindsight, you'll realize, my gosh, I didn't get the job offer for that company that then imploded. I dodged a bullet. So trust that the universe has got your back. Everything is conspiring in your favor. And sometimes the universe blocks things to protect you for your better good. And in this same vein of better good, the final one that I'll leave with you, which I love as well. If not this, then something even better. So if I don't get this flat or my offer on this place isn't accepted, well, it just means there's an even better home for me around the corner. If things don't work out with this guy, then an even better guy or an even better scenario will work out for me and is waiting for me around the corner. If not this, then something even better. And that's a really fun one energetically to think about, because sometimes when we're attached to something, we think it's the be all and end all, it's the only thing, or it's like the best possible thing. But then when we release ourselves and entertain the possibility that, oh, what if there's something even better waiting me around the corner? That just leaves you with a lot more levity and a lot more lightness. And it's all about holding it lightly. So that is it for today. Some truths about the dynamics of desire, how it impacts us and the people and the situations outside of us, as well as some really practical ways to help you to release your attachment, to hold the butterfly lightly in the palm of your hand, and to let go. I will also link a few resources in the comments. If you would like to go further into this idea of letting go and surrender in general, there's a couple of great books I've read on this: Letting Go, The Surrender Experiment. And I'd also love to know what you think. I would love to know, do you have any of your own practices which help you to hold things lightly, to let go? Please feel free to leave a comment, share your insights and advice with others in the community who also might benefit from your own knowledge and wisdom. And if you think this information could benefit someone you know, please feel free to share this video with them. It would make me feel great if this could be of help to even more people. And if you'd like to hear more from All Puppies, then please hit subscribe. We will be having more practical wisdom coming soon to help you live a life in full bloom. And that's it for now. Until next time. Sending you light and love.